And here's another video. Now think of God. He warned you not to fuck with me. But you'll fuck with me to justify the black riders. You'll fuck with me to justify all these evil people. And again, that is butchery. You can't butcher me to justify their fucking piece of shit. So there'll be no more. And I'll post on Tumblr how there's a duty of care that's being violated by the federal government, the state government, the county government, the local governments. And this is related to Columbine. See, I read all these shooter reports. I don't know how many of you have. A lawyer might try one, but I read all the shooter reports. All these things about serial killers and shooters and everything my whole life. So I can figure out the psychology. So I can figure out how to put systems in place to prevent it from happening. And so the lack of duty of care. See, as I told you, I was beaten as a child by a black guy with a 2x4. And who was I protecting? A mentally challenged individual. Because he beat him multiple times with a yardstick. Now, everybody in class, like Lulu, she's Hispanic, they did nothing. I stood up. And I took the 2x4. And even when he broke the yardstick and beat me brutally with the 2x4, not a single word in class. Do they have a duty of care? Well, you'll see on Tumblr that actually they could be considered co-conspirators to him. So going back to Columbine, I read the report of how the kids were picked on for years. Now, I told you how I dealt with people who picked on people. And my protocol for picking on was this, that these people did nothing directly to agitate them. They did not incite them. And this goes from childhood. So Clarence, sometimes his nose was a little bit runny. But again, he cleaned it. He didn't have it boogers running off his nose, or, every so often there'd be some, and then he'd go to the bathroom and clean it. So he was quiet, he was respectful. I sat next to him. He was very quiet, very humble, very respectful. He didn't drop anything. He didn't make annoying sounds. Truly. And so it's like Matt Norral in high school. Now, Matt, when he got hit, he made kind of a weird sound, but that's because he got hit. And I didn't go around Norral. And I protected him. Because I look at him, his clothing and hair, okay. Not the greatest haircut, not the greatest of attire. I got picked on in high school for my clothing. But, okay. But is he doing things to incite? And so I'd watch in the playground and everything. And if they didn't do anything to incite, and that person targeted them because they were just weak, because they were just an opportunity, then that person was evil. And that person, I corrected. And I asked them to stop, and I would rationalize with them, and if they didn't, eventually, like my brother's situation. My brother didn't do anything to annoy Ignacio or that to incite him. And I went up to him, and now he was an immigrant. But again, I'm just giving you some of the details. And I went up to him and asked them to stop. And I asked him, please and nicely and respectfully, stop picking on my brother. He's not doing anything to you. You singled him out. And he's a big kid. He's tall. He was taller than me, bigger than me. And he refused. And he made a aggressive motion towards me. So I took him down, and we happened to be, when I was confronting him, on the parallel bars, and under it was a rubber mat. And so I swept him out and slammed him onto the ground, and I was on top of him. And yes, I pinned him down, and I was hitting him. And basically at the same time, I was saying to him, are you going to stop picking on my brother? Well, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a knife, pocket knife. It was open, and he lunged it at me to stab me. I grabbed his hand, turned his wrist, removed the pocket knife, closed it up, and I don't think I gave it back to him. But I continued to press him, and I said, do we have an understanding that you're not going to pick on my brother again? And he submitted. And when he submitted, then I got off of him and I let him up. And I said, now we have an understanding, you're never going to pick on him again. Yep. And he never picked on my brother again. But that's just one incident. Now, my friend Jimmy Quinn, I'll give you the other side of it. I protected him, and I suppressed the people that were picking on him. That means I got in a physical confrontation. They got physical with me, and I suppressed them. And they agreed they wouldn't pick on him again. But he decided to get big with his mouth, and he started calling them all kinds of names, inciting them. And I told them, tomorrow you're going to school, and now you're on your own. And what happened? He got his ass kicked. And I didn't do anything. I solved this problem. I got them to agree. We had a treaty. He violated the treaty. And so he needed to suffer the ramifications. I didn't let him do it to him again, but he learned. He kept his mouth shut. They have an agreement. They're not going to pick on you. That means verbally or physically. They're going to keep their mouth shut. You keep your mouth shut. And so that's how I did my agreements. And I did this in elementary, high school, college, and yes, I stood up for many people in the workplace. But I didn't physically beat them. But I did my best to do things, but I ended up getting fired many times. Wrongfully every single time. but I don't know, 10 more times. Unbelievable. And each time it threw me back into poverty, and I had to do all the hard work building myself up the chain, and then unrighteousness came again, and I ended up getting wrongfully terminated again and thrown right back to the bottom. And then having to build up again. And I did this. I changed industry, the financial services, hopefully getting a better character of people. I thought because it's a securities industry and you do licensing and they do background and fingerprinting and everything, which we didn't do in hospitality, but should be done in hospitality. But I still ran into a bunch of people that once they were in the door, they weren't good actors. Truly, once they made it through all the licensing and everything, then they basically were the wolf in sheep's clothing, and once they got in, they started doing all kinds of stuff because compliance was pretty much inept. So, again, I had to stand up, and it all started again in financial services, getting wrongfully terminated. So I learned that even with all the background checks and everything, the fingerprinting and that's why I'm an advocate for polygraphs. And I like the way the FBI and that does it, and they do deeper background checks, the Secret Service, and all of that. So again, I learned that they need to do a better job because you get Bernie Madoff and all these people that do all this incredible amounts of crime. Michael Milken, you name it. So they're the wolf in sheep's clothing. So again, I get thrown back down to the bottom. Unrighteously, and I gotta constantly rebuild myself. And it really sucks. It really, really sucks because you gotta go through all the pain again. It's like a hell loop. And now I'm back in the hell loop again. Back at the bottom, trying to, move my way up, meaning get healthy again, restore my life, so I don't have to sit in immense poverty and, go through all the suffering. I'd like to fix my teeth, which I'm missing 2 teeth, and both the crowns came off, and I got, how do you say, partial teeth sticking out, which one of them on the right side, lots of food gets caught in. One on the left side, food gets caught in, but it's easy to clean out because, there's very little, except on the outside, there's a little ridge, but the one on the right, both inside and outside, they have a ridge, and it creates a pocket, so I have to go in there. And a rubber toothpick, which was a great idea. One end is the traditional, the other end is a rubber, and the rubber is good on the skin because it doesn't cause the sensitivity, and so I can clean out the interior and keep it clean from any food debris. But again, I have to manage. And so what do? I take my toothbrush and I turn it vertical to my face. And so how you standard brush, it goes in on a horizontal back and forth. Well, now I take it and turn it to the side, and I brush both on the left and right side on the vertical angle, so I can brush the sides of the 2 teeth around it and then get down into the valley, because the other way it just goes right over the top. So I had to modify how I brush my teeth. And then so the bristles get deep into the tooth and everything and keeps it clean. So I don't have any problems with pain or anything. It's just annoying with the food getting stuck. So I overcame. That's what I need to do to be able to live and tolerate missing the teeth. So I just adjust and overcome, and I deal with the situation. That's what a godly person does. Not that I want the situation, but this is what the evil of you done, like the car that came up behind me. It's 4:14 a.m. and I've been on this road many times at 4:14 a.m. Do you know this? In my first breakdown, I used to drive this road a lot at this time of night. And do you know how many cars I ran into? 0. In all those years, it was almost never. Now I've run into multiple cars, which is very unusual for this area at 3 to 4 in the morning, that you would run into vehicles. People don't drive down this road at this time. So it's very interesting to me. So if I didn't have all this experience from all those years taking this road, then I wouldn't pay much attention. But all those years of experience, you tend to recognize patterns that tend not to be normal. So, anyways, I wonder when all the unrighteousness is going to end. Or are you just going to persecute me until I die? Because it's been unbelievable. The 100+ places. Now the Starbucks, he tells me that I have to be quiet. And he told the girls before to quiet down. First of all, I didn't think the girls needed to quiet down. They're behind the counter slamming things, as I put out on the other video, and making incredible amounts of noise. And then here is him coming on the other side of the counter telling them to quiet down. And I didn't see anyone around me looking like they wanted that person to quiet down, and they weren't annoying me. So it's interesting. Here, I'll let this car go by. Let's see. Go ahead. I don't tailgate anyone. Now the car is going to go ahead, and it's going to go far in front of me and everything. Wow. But it's been on my tail for all those, half a mile. And it's interesting. Look at the car all the way up there. Wow, I'm nowhere near it. It's interesting how this always goes that way. That they're right on top of my shit. And I give them incredible amounts of space and respect. So I get no respect, no space, And they get all that respect and space. Interesting how that works. And so we have a pretty shitty society. So that's my point with this video. Like with Columbine, and again, I'll put the information up on Tumblr, but those teachers and principals should have went to jail. The mother who got away with abusing her son, who did the mall shooting, who the father didn't pick up the son fast enough. You know, he was going to get him next week, and the son lost it and went to the mall and did the shooting. Well, his life was destroyed. Other people's lives were destroyed. And the judge put the son back with the mother. And the court already proved her to be unfit. So if the court sees the mother and he won the custody battle and found that she was not a fit mother, and the father couldn't take the child right away, he was going to move him out and everything, then why would the court put the child back in the mother's custody? And then the mother, once back in her custody, because she lost the case and was going to lose the child, she went off on him. And the shooting, how he got the gun, it was the mother's gun. But the mother didn't go to jail. And it's interesting on that, because she caused the whole thing. She caused the whole fucking thing. So Hitler got hung because he caused it. But we get parents, as in this action, or the other one, we get school administrators in that somehow Hitler, they hang him and all the others, and then in Japan they try them and execute them that caused it. And I see this Saddam Hussein got hung, and you know, I start going down and looking at all this, and I'm wondering, how do these people get to walk? Literally, how do they get to walk? Because when I'm a post on Tumblr, there's a duty of care, and they failed the duty of care. So how do they get to walk? I'm incredibly confused. I read these cases and they failed their duty of care. And again, not Jeffrey Dahmer's, he was older, but Ted Bundy's parents, or John Wayne Gacy's parents, right? Duty of care. You know, again, I wonder, because the first girl he killed was at 14, Ted Bundy. And I forget who was the first one that John Wayne Gacy molested and went to jail for. But I think that was in Indiana. But again, how about the parents? Now, John Wayne Gacy was older, but Ted Bundy was younger. And so I really wonder, how did the parents get away with a duty of care? So that's been what I've been wondering all this time, with all those cases that I read over, of all these people that have been incited to do this. that where was the duty of care? Meaning, why weren't they charged with negligence in that? Where were the criminal charges for their action? So, I wonder, how is that possible? That, they don't have that responsibility, that they can get away with it. And again, think about me being beaten at Patrick Henry and then having to stand up over and over again for people that were, brutalizing others. Like I said, my ground rules is they weren't inciting them. Then it gets into more tricky situation of determining self-defense. And so, again, most of them that I defended didn't do leg shaking or other annoying habits. Truly. So, they were innocent. They weren't doing anything but being vulnerable. And because of the weakness, they targeted them. Isn't that what you do to me? Right? I don't travel with any friends or anything, and I constantly get targeted. And in the restaurants and that, I don't have any friends that would stand up for me. And so I constantly get targeted. And so it's interesting, those 100+ places. And why do I say I count it? So it's actually true. I went through and counted. So again, I wonder, because before, like when David was getting his chair kicked at the movie theater, and David asked him to stop, and he wouldn't stop, and then I got up, and his brother got up, and his other brother got up, and David got up, and we asked him to stop forcefully, meaning, more a stern warning. But I stood there right by his side, supported him, and the guy stopped kicking his chair. David sat back down, and he did nothing. He never kicked his chair for the rest of the movie. And that's all David wanted, was peace and tranquility. He's become a doctor, and you have to watch this, because you can't have a bully become a doctor. Somebody does unrighteous things, and David is not a bully. So he's a pastor's son, and he understands that he has to be righteous in his actions. So, again, in the medical profession or other professions, you have to have these rules, and these people have to be weeded out and broken. So, when is that going to happen? When are they going to do the right thing and weed these individuals and get them to be broken and change their conduct? When are we going to reform them? So again, it's interesting driving around and, this shit happens. So, again, when are they going to look back at those cases and going to charge people? I don't know if it's beyond the statute of limitations, both civilly and criminally, but I look at all this shit because I've been one at Deerfield High School, and, for a good amount of the season, they pissed in my helmet. And I went to the coaches and everything, and no one did shit. So, I'm wondering when they're going to, do the right thing. When are they going to, make sure these people get broken? So, I'm waiting for, all these things that have been done to me. And I understand, like, people at work said, talked horrible things about me behind my back, which were untrue, like at Charlie's, Karen and Bill. But again, when are these things going to be addressed? And I mean, going forward. So, I'm interested in, when are we going to have a more just society where these things are not accepted anymore? And I try to give all kinds of things to make sure they don't happen. Because I don't want people to be punished. Truly. So I posted all that on, Tumblr about, having people volunteer at Goodwill and that and help them do, better pairings fashion-wise and all that. To not give them reasons to pick on them. Because if they are, then they're just evil. Truly. So, again, I try not to incite. So, believe me, like John at my office, he has hearing impairment. I got a decimeter. I measured my sound. I showed him. I kept it on my phone, making sure that I'm not making too much noise in my office. And then I even closed the door to my office. So I'm measuring my sound for him because he complained. I measure my sound, and then I close the door, and I keep the door closed to my office. So I monitor the level of my sound. I keep the door closed to my office. And him and Lisa, found other things to complain about. And they just kept on doing that over and over and over and over and over again. So, it's interesting on how that happens. And then I laugh because police have only persecuted me. Like the Hispanic Chicago cop who threw my ID off my face, or the Chicago cop who hit me when I was handcuffed to the cell because I was talking to the black guy next to me. He smacked me in the head. But again, I can go into other issues as well. But again, I wonder on these things, how are things going to be handled correctly? So I give all these alternatives and everything, you know, trying to prevent people from doing criminal acts and, you know, stabilizing their hormones, to giving them access to things they didn't know about, whether charities or government or whatever, free Celebrate Recovery, or, you know, where are the night ministries so they can get medical attention. And, you know, I try all this to take away their incentives to do wrong. So it's not me saying, oh, well, you know, no, I want to make sure I don't want you to do these things. So I don't want to have to punish you. So I do these things, and that's what God did, the Garden of Eden. He didn't want to punish Adam and Eve. He gave them all these things, taking away all their issues. And so these people, just like them, are going to be condemned. They have no excuses. You know, I do all this to make the stock market stable, the economy stable. So, you know, I don't want them to lose their 401ks or, you know, have these negativities. So I try to take away the excuses for these bad things to happen. So I give them the alternative, the carrot. You just beat on me with the stick. So me and you are nowhere alike. I give them every reason not to. You terrorize me in every fucking possible way. You deprive me, you isolate me, you disrespect me, you do everything negative. You're not like me or God. I give you every excuse not to do it, and you still fucking do it. If you're not incredibly evil, then there must be somebody who is more, but I can't think of it. Because Satan, even in the Garden of Eden, and the funny thing is, he didn't get in their head. So make note of this. In the Garden of Eden, read how Satan came in. He just had a talk like he did in Jesus. He had a conversation, and they allowed him in. And that's how it operates in the Bible, just like the Holy Spirit. You make a choice through your actions, just like you make a choice with the Holy Spirit through your actions. So, again, you choose to be evil. So, make no mistake about it, that it's through your actions. And so, what's being done to me is incredibly ungodly. I think you're the most wicked people that have ever existed. Because you violate spaces that no one could do. Truly, back then they couldn't do any of the stuff you've done. They had none of that capability. You have all that capability, and you use it for abuse. In particular, abusing me. I give all these people, like that black teacher, I was quiet and perfect. I never disrespected him. And this is another thing you don't understand, nor would I let anyone else in the classroom disrespect him. So, you think I was doing things or somebody was doing, nah, I kicked their fucking ass. They showed that black teacher absolute respect. Absolute respect. Even after he said that he was here to kick the shit out of white and black kids, and that he would beat the shit out of our fathers if they didn't like it. Okay. No one acted up. In my classroom, everybody was perfect to him. Perfect to him. So, I didn't give him excuses. So, what did he do? He picked out somebody who couldn't be vocal, and this is how fucking evil he was. He didn't pick out somebody who was strong and vibrant. He picked Clarence because he saw that he was weak. Unlike going into Starbucks and them having the tattoos and the fucking nose piercing and the fucking hair and all the fucking disgusting shit. That's not the situation. Polite and quiet and observant, and no one talking back to him, absolutely respecting him. And the same thing. And when I stood up and told them to stop and to take me, and I did do it respectfully, I stood up and told him to take me instead of Clarence. When I saw him reaching and he grabbed the 2x4 and I said, take me. And he's like, you're so brave. Okay, get up there. I complied, walked up there, and I bent over the desk and he beat the shit out of me. And then I went to the closet exactly like he said. And I was compliant. I was in there with Clarence. He was crying. And then I showed up to class the next day and respected him. And no one talked back to him. But the funny thing is, he didn't beat anyone anymore. He didn't beat Clarence. He didn't beat anyone. And then he got reassigned out of our class and our teacher came back. But I came back the next day. I respected him. And everybody in the class continued to respect him. And he did. He didn't beat anyone. He wasn't there that much longer after that, before he moved to the 7th grade class. But he was there, I forget for how much longer, but everybody showed them absolute respect, or I would have kicked their ass. So, I didn't flame the fires, but he went up to the 7th grade class and he continued to beat kids. So there was no disrespect. No one disrespected him. No one called him names. No one did anything negative to him. He was on a mission, as he said, to kick the shit out of white kids, male and female. And he did it. So don't tell me my whole life I don't do things to incite. And I give all this to give people no reason to. And my whole life, all the people that I've gotten in confrontations, I tried to do everything I can not to give them a reason to fight. So like I said, on the south side with charities, I went into urban ministry. I've been working with charities. I clean up their neighborhood. I clean up their parks. I donate to them, truly, clothing, money, all kinds of shit. I give them all this stuff. No reason for them to do the evil. But in every scenario, these people that did it, it's not if they're evil. And this is the way God sees it about you. And any negativity to me is absolutely, unquestionably, pure fucking evil. And so you're showing who you are. You have no excuse to do any negative. All that I did on all those years before, and then I even turned it up in 16, unbelievably more. And you have no excuse to do anything evil to me. But you still took my, what? You fired me, you took my designations, you've thrown me into poverty, you've given me neuropathy and arthritis and tinnitus and diabetes and all kinds of issues. Loneliness, depravity, all kinds of muscles, twitching, you name it. And I gave you every fucking reason not to do any evil. Not to me, not to anyone else. And I go and try to solve every country in the world's problems and all of it. They give you no excuses. The Pope doesn't do that. He might do a sermon where he stands up there and says some shit, but that's all he fucking does. He's not giving them the resources. He's not solving their problems. So again, he's not the Bible in action. He's not the living word. He's just a talking head. Blah, 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 blah. That's all he is. A bunch of fucking hot wind. So, again, when are you going to do the right things? And if not, then it's a no-brainer for God to slaughter you all. And I would bless it. That includes my family. If you're not going to do the right thing and they're not going to be part of the cure and you're just part of the disease, then I hope he slaughters you all. Because you deserve to be slaughtered without question and without hesitation. I wouldn't hesitate. You've been forewarned, and if I was God, once I'm gone, I wouldn't hesitate to slaughter you. I would slaughter you so fast, it would be unbelievable. So if you say there's intelligent life out there, well, and they're watching this, I would wait till you go into space and I would slaughter you. Because you deserve to be slaughtered. Ending the video.